Welcome to Breaking the Silence Mental Health Conversations with your hosts, Kim Olver and Dr. Richard Doss. Together, we'll break the silence and challenge the stigma by speaking now. So, take a deep breath, get comfortable, and let's dive in. It's time to start the conversation.
When do you know it's a good time to seek help, Richard? That might be a question for you.
Yeah. How bad does it have to be? So as I think about relationship issues, if one of you has a problem in the relationship, guess what? You both have a problem in the relationship. And so are we honest enough to share with our partners that, you know what, that thing that you did or that thing that you continue to do, or the things that you say to me are uncomfortable. I don't like it. And sometimes I'll just keep it real simple. I'll say that it's all right to say to your partner, you know, that thing you said to me, that's not cool. I don't appreciate that, and I don't feel respected. If one person is in a bad place in a relationship, the relationship is in a bad place. Individually, if your behavior has changed and or your thinking has changed and it's affected your job, and you're not able to go to work, or when you go to work you're not productive, or you're sleeping too much, you're oversleeping, you can't get any sleep at all. If there's a significant change in who you are, who you've been, and how you act, that may be something to take notice of, to say, man, you know what, something feels off.
Yeah, it's like most people, not everybody, but most people drive cars.
Okay.
And most people know that at 3,000 miles, you change the oil.
Right.
You don't wait until your engine is knocking and the red light is on and you're out of oil to go get an oil change, because then you've got a seized engine and you need to replace the entire engine. You know about that, because that's what you do.
That's what I do, right.
He's not only a clinical psychologist. So it's similar to this. Pay attention to the early signs that something's not right. So another thing I would add to that is, when you feel, don't wait until you're feeling so depressed you can't get out of bed in the morning, or that you're sleeping your day away, or that you're so anxious you don't want to be around any other people. You just stay at home when you're not at work. Don't wait for those extremes. Think about when you start self-medicating. And I think a lot of people do that early on when they're uncomfortable.
Maybe having a drink.
A drink, 2 drinks, 3 drinks, a bottle,
Right.
or retail therapy. I see that a lot with the spouses of people who are deployed. When you work with military folks, they spend money because it helps them fill an emptiness that they're feeling by having the person that they love the most away from them for a long period of time. It could be eating. You know, either eating or not eating. So either way, you either stop eating and you're wasting away to nothing, or you are gaining enough weight that you need a whole new wardrobe, and then you're doing retail therapy, buying new clothes.
Right.
So there's various ways that people self-medicate. It could be drugs. It's a way to help you feel better when you're feeling a little off. So pay attention to the little off part and work on, if you will, maintenance, like changing your oil. Don't wait for it to get to be a big problem, because then it's more expensive and it takes more time, and you may have a lot more peripheral issues than if you had just attended to it in the beginning.
Here's one of the questions that I ask sometimes. Which is better, to be healthy or to be normal? And so here's the challenge. A lot of people don't know what healthy actually is and what healthy actually looks like, because the thing that they've been doing that may be inappropriate, maladaptive, unhealthy, they've been doing it so long that has become they're normal, right? And so if you know everybody, if most of your friends are depressed, and most of your friends are anxious, or most of your friends have relationship issues, then that's normal for you. But the question that I ask is that healthy? And do you really know what healthy looks like? I remember doing a group, working with a group of women who had been through domestic violence. And one of the participants turned to me and said, with a straight face, Dr. Doss, all men beat women. And her reality is that every man that she had ever dated was physically abusive.
And probably the men who dated her friends or her siblings, sisters also, were abusive.
Not healthy, but in her world,
normal.
That was normal. Yeah. And so where do you learn what's healthy and where do you learn what's unhealthy? And then if you're in a situation that's unhealthy, when, where, and how do you learn to speak up? Because one of the fears that a lot of people have is, I'm the only one who's experiencing this. I'm the only one who has this problem. And if other people knew, then I'd be embarrassed or they might talk about me. So I'm just going to keep it to myself.
Which is the opposite of it's normal. You don't know any other person who experiences that, so you think you're all alone. And you are never, ever all alone. I remember a woman talking to me about her parents were in a cult and she was born into the cult, and the things that were done to her as a child were just horrific. And it wasn't less than a month later, I met another woman who was born into a cult.
Wow.
And you know, that's just me. One person found two people in the course of a month. I wasn't looking for them.
Right.
So if I know there's two, I know that there's 20, and I'm pretty sure there's 200 and maybe 2,000, and keep on going, because people join cults. And one of the characteristics of cults are that you're isolated, you don't get to know what's normal, and things that are not normal are perpetrated against you, and you think it's normal because it happens to everyone there.
Let me say this out loud too, that there isn't a battle against faith-based counseling and clinical counseling. So it doesn't have to be either or. It's possible that you can need or want both. So I don't ever want you to think that, well, because I talked to my pastor or I talked to my priest, that there's no need to talk to somebody, you know, who has a license in clinical psychology or a licensed professional counselor, because it's different approaches.
Right.
It's different approaches. And just because you believe that it can get better, and so that's one of the powerful things that, you know, faith-based counseling does. It helps you believe that it can get better. That doesn't necessarily mean that you know how to make it better. And so I don't want this to be your therapy.
Yeah.
That somehow, that if I cross my fingers, or somehow if I have a horseshoe or a rabbit's foot, that my situation is going to get better. I like taking that active approach, that directive approach, and believing that it's going to get better, and then making it better by changing my behavior. So here's what, you know, they say in my church: faith without works is dead. So as you believe it can get better, the question then becomes, what are you going to do to make it better? And you won't always alone have that answer, right? And so sometimes you need to turn to somebody to ask, has anybody else been in this situation? And that's your family and your friends. But then clinicians, we know the research, and we can tell you, well, so this might not work for you, but it's worked for 90% of the people that I've spoken with. It's worked for 75% of the people that I worked with. There's a good chance if you do these things, you may have a better outcome.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. And along those same lines, I would say that there are some approaches. For example, if you're someone who has a history of mental health problems in your family, for example, you might think that whatever's happening with you could be a genetic thing or a medical model thing that might require medication and counseling for a prolonged period of time, perhaps. Or you may think that you've experienced a trauma in your life and that trauma has impacted you in such a way that you need some trauma-informed care. So you want to go to someone who has been trained to deal with trauma, because this isn't medical model, this is people responding in a normal way to an extraordinary situation. If you are a person that doesn't feel like you have a medical issue going on where you don't need a diagnosis or medication, but you might need to adjust your thinking. I don't know if you're aware of this, the audience, that I'm sure you pretty much are, that we tend to be our own worst critic. And so we have this voice in our head, and I'm not talking about the kind of voice you need to medicate. This is a voice, sometimes it's ours, sometimes it belongs to a parent or someone from our past or a previous partner or maybe even a current partner, telling us that we're stupid and nobody will ever love us. And the worst possible things you can imagine is what you think in your head, and that creates a lot of angst for you. Then it's possible that what you really need is a way of adjusting or changing your thinking to get a more positive outcome. So that's when I think group therapy, like you talked about, or therapeutic groups, and what I would call a psychoeducational approach, which is what I do with mental freedom, can be helpful. It's almost like taking a class or a course on having better mental health. That may be all that you need. So it just depends on the severity, where you think the origins are that come from whatever's bothering you, would affect who you go to and how successful that treatment is.
So one of the things that comes to mind as you're talking is that somebody might be asking, who can I trust?
Yeah.
Who can I trust? And I think one of the litmus tests that you might use is the person that I'm talking to licensed to have this conversation? You know, so whether it's the state of Illinois or any other state, there are state licensing boards that determine that people have had enough training and experience to be able to sit in front of somebody, and that person should be able to trust them based on, you know, various criteria that the state has set forth. So yeah, is that person licensed in something? You know, are they knowledgeable about something? And then if you go to somebody, licensed or not, that isn't helping, you have to realize that it's not over. It doesn't mean that therapy doesn't work. It may mean that you have a therapist who's not a good fit.
That happens a lot. I mean, you don't like every single person that you meet. It's the same thing with therapists. I mean, you could go see somebody and feel like, oh, they're judging you. You don't like them. You get a bad feeling when you walk into the office. That's not who you should be spending your time with. Give it a fair shot. I think 3 sessions should be a fair shot. If it isn't getting any better, then go to someone else. Try something different. Don't give up. Don't, like you said, don't say therapy doesn't work. It definitely works. It's great when you can find a person that you can vibe with.
Right. So I'm a clinical psychologist. If you're looking for a therapist in the state of Illinois, go to psychologytoday.com. Put in my name, Richard Doss, and you'll be able to find me as a therapist. I'm sure that there is somebody out there who can help you. It's not going to be the same person for everybody. But if you need to talk to somebody, find somebody to turn to. Go to somebody who's had a therapist before. Talk to a family member or a friend who can guide you in the right direction. And we don't have yellow pages anymore.
No, we do. Well,
Yeah.
I think there is still a book that comes out, but nobody keeps it.
So, right. So by any means necessary, you have to figure out, man, how, when, where, and why do I turn to somebody to help me? If you're not in a good place, if you're hurting, you're depressed, you're anxious, your relationships are bad, maybe even you're thinking about suicide, reach out. Reach out to somebody, whether it's 911 or 988, reach out to somebody. Help is available. I'm available, Kim's available. Turn to somebody that you can trust.
And I'm Kim Olver, that's Olver, and you can find me at olverinternational.com. And I do coaching and I do clinical counseling. So coaching is more for people who have goals they're trying to accomplish. It's very strength-based, so if that's what you're looking for, I can help you with that. If my caseload is full, I have other people I can refer you to that I personally know and would recommend. So please reach out. This has been Richard Doss and Kim Olver on another episode of Breaking the Silence Mental Health Conversations. Talk to you soon. I just want to say, if you have any topics or areas that you would like Richard and I to focus on in future videos, just drop a comment here. Send us an email at the address that's on the screen.